This has turned out to be a pretty good way to make masks. You'll need definitely some equipment and supplies here. A sewing machine. I got this one off Amazon. Doubt they have any left anymore. They seem to be out of anything anybody really wants to make masks, especially elastic is hard to find. I got some thread. The only thread I could get at the time was this stuff that turned out to be embroidery thread on these cones instead of spools. So I duct taped a coat hanger to a mason jar to make a dispenser for the thread to the sewing machine. You'll need some cotton cloth. I got the fabric from Joann. I also got the pattern from Joann's website. There was a PDF that had an adult pattern and a child pattern, and guess what, one was too big and one was too small, so I averaged out the numbers and made my own medium-sized pattern, and it's just right. I also, you can see here, have a little pattern of a 5 by 1 inch pocket pattern that I use to hold a removable paper clip nose wire. This end right here is actually open and you can remove the wire just using large paper clips for that. You'll need a surface that you can iron on. I wouldn't do this on a wood table. You'll probably destroy it. You probably shouldn't do it on a glass table either, but so far I haven't broken it. You also will need an iron. One of the other things you need is elastic. I was able to get this 1/4 inch knit elastic from somebody in Randleman off of eBay. It's really hard to get right now. Your other option for doing straps instead of doing elastic ear straps is to sew straps that you can tie. These I sewed. I made a tool with a coat hanger so that you sew them inside out, and then this hook I used to pull them. Yes, Lily, hi. Lily approves of the sewn straps. And to pull them right side out, it's really a pain, and if you have some kind of elastic option, that's going to work a lot better. I've cut and ironed a single fold of the fabric. I've left about 1 inch here because that's the part that I'm going to use to make that pocket with, so I can take my pattern and run across here, and then I'll have that strip at the bottom to make the pocket for the nose wire. So I'll just get this set to where I've got some clean pattern on here. If you've got washable markers, that's great. Otherwise, just mark and cut with a fold on one side. You don't need to mark the full lines, just mark enough that you can see to cut. One of the other things you're going to need is a good pair of scissors that's nice and sharp. Hasn't been used to cut flower stems and stuff like that, and still can give you a nice, good, straight cut line. So now I've got my cut piece to the size of the pattern and my 2 little strips, one of which I'll use to make the pocket. Alright, so you take your cut fabric, turn it wrong side out. Give it a quick press. This was one of the cheapest irons I could get from Amazon. It works wonderfully. It's got an auto shut off. I can just leave it plugged in the whole day I'm using it. Now I'm going to measure 2 7-inch pieces of this 1/4 inch elastic. Okay. So what you want to do is take the side that's not the fold of the fabric, leave about a 3-inch gap here to turn it inside out when we're all done. Just going to do a straight stitch on this, leaving a 3-inch gap. And if I don't have the best technique, that's okay. It works for me. And so now we're going to take the ends and we're going to take the elastic and secure it on either side of the ends and get that guy lined up straight up and down there. I'm going to change the settings on my machine to a zigzag, a length of 1 on the stitch, width of 4.5. If you want to come over here and look at the settings that I've got here. This is a Singer, so that's my width, my length, and this is pretty nice. It's got a lot of different stitches on here that I don't even have any idea what I'm doing with, but the zigzag and the straight stitch are all I need for this. So I'm going to put this zigzag stitch in here as a reinforcing stitch. Back stitch it, forward stitch it. So I got basically a triple stitch in there to reinforce the part that's actually going to be tugged on. So now I'm going to make sure that I have the elastic straight in the same direction, and then go back to the other side of this end, position it straight against the seam, and repeat what I just did with the reinforcing stitch. And now I'll do the other end the same way. Okay. Right, then I'm going to change my machine back to 0 width, length of 3, straight stitch. And I'm just going to straight stitch across the ends to close them up. There's only one rule in sewing, that's don't put your finger under the needle. Okay, I just edited out that my thread had popped out of the needle. I'm going to finish the straight stitch across the other end. If you'd like to trim as you go, you can go ahead and trim off your threads before you turn it inside out. Alright, so now we've got our everything sewn up except for the gap that we left. We're going to go ahead and turn it right side out. One thing I didn't mention is you have to be careful not to sew your elastic band into the wrong place when you're doing that straight stitch across the end. Otherwise, this guy can get locked in here, and you'll find out at this point. Alright, so I'm going to take this opening and put it the way it needs to be here, finger press it a little bit, and go ahead and use the iron, press this out. And now I'm going to get my pattern back. I'm probably not doing these pleats the right way, but I've managed to make this work for me. So you'll zoom in right here. What I do with this pattern and the way that I ended up making it and cutting it is I just take all of these marks and try to evenly space them in between the elastic bands here. And then I'll mark, this particular fabric, it's hard to see on the black, but I'll go ahead and mark each one of these lines And then I'll repeat that on the other end. Now, if you don't have a washable marker, who cares? If you got a little bit of a Sharpie mark on your mask, whoever's noticing that is too close to you to begin with. And so now I'll take this, and basically what I want to do is take third one down, put it on the first one, and then repeat that process twice. We're going to do that on both sides. Third one down, put it on the first one. Give it a little press. Now 1, 2, third one down, put it on the first one. One more time. I'm going to give it a pretty good press right here because this is going to be the tricky part, is stitching over these ends. We're actually going to pin this from the other side. And you want to take your pin, you want to leave enough space here for your sewing machine foot. So I want to come over here about 3/4 of an inch and try really hard not to stick the pin in my finger. Yep, failed. And then flatten that down, do the same thing on the other end. And you'll find a way to pin this that works. I just sort of do it however it'll stick. Flatten that down well. Okay. Okay, and we're just going to do a straight stitch across here to hold this in place. And you want to do it so that the pleats aren't going to get picked up by the foot there. So there's a certain direction that matters. And we're going to just repeat that on the other side. It'll be difficult to get past the elastic. You'll figure out after about the third one how to make your machine do it properly. And then it'll stop doing it and you'll have to figure out why. Okay. So now we can take the pins out. We're done with them. And we want to make our nose wire pocket. The way that I've done mine, this is just to get, I'm going to use a 1 inch by 5 inch piece, put a little seam on, or hem on one end of it, and then sew it down and leave that end open there so that you can remove the paper clip. So we need a 1 inch by 5 inch piece. This is just a little bit over an inch. That's fine. You don't want to go smaller than an inch because you'll end up with something so small to sew, and then the paper clip will get all jammed up in there when you're trying to use it. A little bit bigger is fine. A little smaller, not so good. So I've got my 5 inch piece here. I'm just going to press a little hem on that. And I'm going to go sew a straight stitch across this. I'll be right back. Okay.
Okay.
You ready? Okay, if you start too close to the side here, then the fabric on a small piece can get jammed down into the machine. Kind of a pain. So I start a little bit into it, and then I'll flip it around and go in the opposite direction. Oh, I lost my thread. Let me go ahead.
Okay.
Okay. So on this machine, the Singer gives you nice numbered, arrowed instructions on how to rethread. That's number 1, number 2, number 3 wraps down around here, 4 comes back, 5 is in the arm and back down to number 6, just this little keeper piece here. Now if you'll zoom in right in on this needle, this is a really nice feature of this Singer. It has a needle threader, and you want to get behind me to capture this. Needle threader, especially if you're over 40 years old and can't see that if you hook it over these 2 little things right here, it'll pull it through the eye of that needle, and then you can pull that out. Okay. All right, one more time. So I only got part of that. I'm going to turn it around the other way and do the rest of it. Okay. All right, so now we're going to make the rest of our pocket. We're going to start by folding in half and just finger pressing to give us a guideline. And then you're going to take the outside edges and fold them into that guideline in the center. And then we'll press that
like a burrito.
Yeah, like a burrito. Alright, and then I'm also going to go ahead and press a hem on the back side of that. Be careful not to burn yourself. Okay. Alright, now we need to figure out where we're putting this pocket. What I've been doing is putting them on the top where I have this opening that's pressed down now. So what I'm going to do is center this over that. So when I come back over and top sew this, it's going to close that opening and sew this down. We're going to do some back stitching in certain places to make sure that it's reinforced, especially around the area where we're going to do our little paperclip nose wire. All right, so we've got this pocket set and just about centered. Doesn't really have to be perfect, but it should be close to the center. And the first thing that I'm going to do is a straight stitch to attach this end, the closed end of the pocket, and lock it in place. All right, I'm going to stop here with my needle down, lift up my foot and pivot, and now take a little time to make sure you get the pocket lined up as close to this edge as possible. And then just sew along that edge as close as you can get a good bite on the hem while still trying to maintain the minimal overlap right there. Now I'm going to reverse and back stitch this because that's going to be a part that needs to be reinforced. Alright, so we'll start over from this corner. We're just going to top stitch the whole thing and we'll basically have the mask except for the wire complete when we're done with that. Now right here, this foot likes to catch that sometimes, so sometimes you have to pause there and get that foot on top of the pocket. Take your time here the best you can and get this as close to the edge as you can while keeping a bite on the fabric. back stitch.
What are you doing now? Going back down the side?
This is the folded edge. We're just gonna stay pretty close to that edge as we can.
So you're going around the whole outside again?
Yeah, we're top stitching the entire outer edge. This will be the end of it, so give it a quick back stitch. And that's about it. Alright, so I like to trim as I go to some degree. I'm going to go ahead and just trim off some of these real quick. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and make our nose wire. These are just large paper clips. I'm going to use some needle nose pliers here and bend out all except the last bend.
I can't see what you're doing.
Alright, this last one I'm going to cut this right before the last one. And now I'm going to take, I don't know, about 3/8 of an inch or so and bend that. And what I want to do is just kind of bend it back flat to keep the end from snagging. I mean, it's going to partially make a hook that's going to snag on any loose threads anyway, but that sharp end can kind of poke you, and that's what I'm trying to bend back and protect the user from. Do the other end. All right. And so now our pocket has got the end that we sewed closed, first part of the last step, and then this other end has got a hem on it, but that's actually open. And so we can slip this nose wire in there.
Sorry.
And this, I got an end right here and an end right there. If it's too long, just take it back out and cut a little bit off and rebend your paper clip. You'll get that figured out. And so now what we want to do is you'll take that nose wire and bend it like so, and then a little bit of recurve on the ends. And you just want to get something that fits. It makes a reasonably tight seal around the nose and cheeks here. And then you can pull this part down. And so you can see the medium size here gives me something that fits my face here, is able to come down and cover my chin, completely cover my mouth, and come up and cover my nose. The medium for average facial structure seems to fit pretty well.